How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, March 10th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Wednesday, March 9th, 2022. And before I get into what's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time, I'm going to take a quick step back and take a big glance at where we are in the calendar year. As we are a month removed from the football season, we are in the winding days of the college basketball regular season. As teams are playing in their conference tournaments, Selection Sunday is this upcoming Sunday, as teams are starting to seed themselves out. And then, of course, in the NBA, there's about a little over a month left as teams are starting to seed themselves out to get ready for the playoffs, which will start by the end of next month. Not to mention that also in soccer, internationally, teams are in the second half of their schedules. In Champions League, we are halfway through the second leg stage of the round of 16, as we are now down to 12 teams competing for the 2021-22 title. With that said, starting off with college basketball, there were no ranked teams that played yesterday, as bigger conferences, especially Power 5 conferences, are seeing the first round of their individual tournaments. Taking a look at what's going on today as we navigate through the big games today. Starting at noon on ESPN, the 7th-ranked Duke Blue Devils, my alma mater, are going to host the unranked Syracuse Orange in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn for the quarterfinal round of the ACC tournament. Duke enters this matchup after having finished with the best record in the ACC, finishing with a 6-4 record. The unranked Syracuse Orange enter this matchup after having finished with a 9-11 record in the ACC. At noon on FS1, the 11th-ranked Providence Friars are going to host unranked Butler in Madison Square Garden. This will be the quarterfinal round of the Big East tournament. Providence enters this round after having finished with a 14-3 record in the Big East versus their unranked opponent Butler, who enters this matchup with a 6-14 record in the Big East, or after having finished with a 6-14 record in the Big East. At 12:30 on ESPN2, the 22nd-ranked Texas Longhorns are going to host unranked TCU, the Horned Frogs, in the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri, for the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 Championship Tournament. 22nd-ranked Texas enters this matchup after having finished with a 10-8 record in the Big 12 this season. At 2 o'clock on Big Ten Network in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the 24th-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes are going to host unranked Northwestern in the second round of the Big Ten tournament. Iowa enters this matchup after having finished with a 12-8 record in the Big Ten. Northwestern enters this matchup after having finished with a 7-13 record in the conference. And on the Pac-12 network at 3 o'clock in the quarterfinal round of the Pac-12 tournament, the second-ranked Arizona, or I guess looking at how they're faring this year, the second-ranked Arizona Wildcats are going to end up hosting unranked Stanford in T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas for the quarterfinal round of the Pac-12 tournament after Arizona finished with an 18-2 Pac-12 record this season. Their opponents, unranked Stanford, finished with an 8-12 record in the Pac-12. At the same time, at 3 o'clock on ESPN, following the Duke-Syracuse game, the 6th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks are going to face off against unranked West Virginia at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas enters this matchup after having finished with a 14-4 record in the Big 12. West Virginia finished with a 4-14 record in the Big 12. At 7 o'clock on ESPN, following the West Virginia-Kansas game, the 3rd-ranked defending champs Baylor Bears are going to face off against the unranked Oklahoma Sooners in the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri for the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 Championship. Baylor enters this matchup after having finished with a 14-4 record in the Big 12. Oklahoma finished with a 7-11 record in the conference. At the same time, at 7 o'clock on FS1, in the Big East quarterfinal, 8th-ranked Villanova is going to host unranked St. John's in Madison Square Garden in New York. Villanova enters this matchup after having finished the season with a 16-4 record in the Big East. St. John's enters this matchup after having finished with an 8-11 record in the Big East. At 9 o'clock on Pac-12 Network, the 13th-ranked UCLA Bruins are going to face off against the unranked Washington State Cougars in the quarterfinal round of the Pac-12 tournament in Las Vegas in the T-Mobile Arena. UCLA enters this matchup after having finished the 2021-22 season with a 15-5 record in the Pac-12. Washington State finished its season with an 11-9 record. At 9 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, the 23rd ranked Colorado State Rams are going to face off against unranked Utah State in the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas for the Mountain West Championship quarterfinal. Colorado State enters this matchup after having finished with a 14-4 record in the conference. Utah State enters this matchup after having finished with an 8-10 record in the Mountain West. At 9:30 on ESPN2, the 14th-ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are going to face off against the unranked Iowa State Cyclones in the T-Mobile Center for the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 Championship. Texas Tech enters this matchup after having finished with a 12-6 record in the Big 12. Unranked Iowa State enters this matchup after finishing with a 7-11 record in the Big 12. All 11 of their losses this year came in the Big 12, so they're a team to look out for. At 9:30 in FS1, the 20th-ranked UConn Huskies are going to face off against the unranked Seton Hall Pirates in the quarterfinal round of the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. UConn enters this matchup after having finished with a 13-6 Big East record. Seton Hall finished their season with an 11-8 Big East record. At 9:30 on ESPN, following the Baylor-Oklahoma game, the 25th-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels are going to face off against the unranked Virginia Cavaliers in the Barclays Center. 25th-ranked UNC enters this quarterfinal matchup of the ACC tournament after having finished with a 15-5 record in the ACC. After having spoiled Duke's last game, Coach K's last regular season game in Cameron. Virginia enters this matchup after having finished with a 12-8 record in the ACC. Last but not least, at 11:30 on FS1, in the quarterfinal round of the Pac-12 tournament, the 21st-ranked USC Trojans are going to face off against the unranked Washington Huskies in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. USC enters this matchup after having finished with a 14-6 record in the Pac-12. Washington enters this matchup after finishing with an 11-9 record in the Pac-12. So that is what college basketball is looking like as we navigate into today, after there was no ranked college basketball yesterday. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA at the professional level, starting off in Charlotte, the Hornets hosted the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics ended up beating the Charlotte Hornets 115-101. The Celtics won this matchup by 14 after they outscored the Hornets by a combined 8 points in the second half. On the losing end first of this matchup, of this game where the Celtics outscored the Hornets by 10 in the second half. The Hornets on the home end of this matchup were led in scoring by their starting power forward, P.J. Washington, and their starting small forward, Miles Bridges. Washington finished with 17 points and 2 blocks in 42 minutes. He went on to shoot 7 for 12 from the field and 3 for 8 from 3. And then, of course, Miles Bridges would go on to finish with 17 points and 5 rebounds in 39 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, LaMelo Ball, finished with 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists as he turned the ball 6 times in 28 minutes. The reigning NBA Rookie of the Year would finish with shooting 6 for 12 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Jason Tatum. He finished with 44 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 16 for 24 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting center, Robert Williams III, finished with 11 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 20 minutes. He shot 5 for 7 from the field, and he made his only free throw. Their starting center, Al Horford, finished with 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 4 for 8 from the field and 2 for 4 from 3. On the winning end, with this win, the Boston Celtics are now 40-27. That is currently the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they are now the 5th team in the Eastern Conference to cross the 40th win threshold. They've now won their last 4 games. Their 4-game winning streak is the second longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference, behind the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks. The Celtics have won 8 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 4th-place Chicago Bulls, and they sit a full game behind the 6th-place Cleveland Cavaliers. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 4 full games at the moment. With this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are 32-35. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games. They have now lost 7 of their last 10. They are currently sitting a game and a half behind the 8th seed Brooklyn Nets. They are sitting about even with the Atlanta Hawks, as they have 1 more win and 1 more loss, so they have a better win-loss percentage. But they are sitting a game and a half ahead of the 11th place Washington Wizards, who are just outside of the play-in picture looking in. At the moment, they are trailing the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 12 full games in the Eastern Conference. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Pistons hosted the Chicago Bulls. The Pistons would end up losing this matchup. The Bulls won it 114-108. They won by 6 points after outscoring the Pistons by 13 points in the 4th quarter to overcome their 7-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Detroit Pistons would be led in scoring by their starting point guard, the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft out of Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham. Cunningham finished with 22 points, 6 assists, and 6 turnovers in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he made both of his free throws on the night. And then on the winning end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls would be led in scoring by their starting small forward, their all-star out of USC, DeMar DeRozan. He finished with 36 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 41 minutes. He shot 12 for 25 from the field, and he shot 12 for 13 from the foul line. Their all-star starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine, finished with 25 points and 5 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field, and he shot 10 for 11 from the foul line. Their starting center, Nikola Vucevic, finished with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 40-26. That is the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they are one of 5 teams in the East that have crossed the 40-win threshold so far. And they are one of 11 teams to do so in the NBA. The Bulls have won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game behind the 3rd place Philadelphia 76ers. They sit half a game ahead of the 5th place Boston Celtics. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 3.5 games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Detroit Pistons are 18-48. That is the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference and the 3rd worst record in the NBA. They've only lost 4 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they are sitting 13.5 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks, outside of the play-in picture out east. Jumping to Miami, the Heat hosted the Phoenix Suns in this matchup that featured the best team in both conferences. The Phoenix Suns would beat the Heat by 21. They won 111-90 after they outscored the Heat by 19 points in the second half. They outscored the Heat by 15 in the 3rd quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Duncan Robinson. Robinson finished with 22 points in 31 minutes. He would go on to shoot 7 for 15 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and he would shoot 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns would be led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Devin Booker. Booker finished with 23 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and he would shoot a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Mikal Bridges, would go on to finish with 21 points and 9 rebounds in 35 minutes. He would go on to shoot 9 for 13 from from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, JaVale McGee, finished with 11 points and 15 rebounds in 16 minutes. He shot 5 for 13 from the field and made his only free throw. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are 53-13. That is the best record in the Western Conference. That is also the best record in the NBA. They are the only team that has crossed the 50-win threshold so far. They're the only team that's won more than 45 games, as a matter of fact, as well. They've won their last 2 games. They've won 7 of their last 10. They are sitting 8.5 games ahead of the second best team in the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies. And with this win, they are the very first team in the NBA to clinch a playoff berth. So congratulations to the Phoenix Suns, as they are currently sitting 27.5 games ahead of the Trailblazers, who are outside of the playoff picture. They sit 26 games ahead of the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans at the moment. As right now, having played 66 games, the Suns now have 16 games left in their season. With this loss, the Miami Heat are now 44-23. That is still the best record in the Eastern Conference, as they've only lost 3 of their last 10. They sit 2 games ahead of the second place defending champs Milwaukee Bucks out east at the moment, and they are currently sitting 12 games ahead of the 10th place Atlanta Hawks, just to give you a sense of how comfortably they are sitting in their playoff position. But that is how the East and the West's best teams are looking right now. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks hosted the Atlanta Hawks. The Bucks beat the Hawks in the rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals, 124-115. The Bucks won this matchup by 9 after they outscored the Hawks by 11 points in the first quarter, by 14 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Trae Young. The 2-time All-Star would finish with 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 11 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 15 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Milwaukee Bucks would be led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, the reigning NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Antetokounmpo would go on to finish with 43 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 15 for 22 from the field. He would shoot 1 for 5 from 3 and 12 for 17 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, their all-star Chris Middleton, finished with 23 points and 8 assists alongside 3 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting center, Bobby Portis, finished with 23 points and 15 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 32 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and he made his only foul line attempt of the day. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 42-25. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 6 games. They've won 7 of their last 10. Their 6-game winning streak is now tied with the Minnesota Timberwolves for the longest active winning streak in the NBA. As of right now, the Bucks are the second team in the Eastern Conference to have clinched a winning record so far with their 42nd win in this 82-game season. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 2 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, and they are sitting half a game ahead of the third-place Philadelphia 76ers for right now. With this loss, the Atlanta Hawks are 31-34. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, just holding on to that last play-in spot. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 5 of their last 10. Having 1 less win and 1 less loss than the Charlotte Hornets, they're sitting even with Charlotte in the playoff race. They sit a game and a half behind the 8th place Brooklyn Nets, and the Hawks are sitting a game and a half ahead of the Washington Wizards, who are the first team outside of the play-in picture looking in. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Rockets hosted the Los Angeles Lakers. The Rockets ended up beating the Lakers in overtime, 139-130. They outscored the Lakers 19-10 in the overtime period after they had to outscore the Lakers by 11 in the second quarter to at least stay even in regulation. On the losing end of this matchup, the Los Angeles Lakers were led in scoring by their goated starting point guard, the NBA's all-time leader in triple-doubles, Russell Westbrook. The former Houston Rocket finished finished with 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 40 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their goated starting small forward, the NBA's active leading scorer, LeBron James, finished with 23 points, 14 rebounds, 12 assists, 4 blocks, and 5 turnovers in 45 minutes. He shot 9 for 26 from the field, 1 for 9 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Malik Monk, finished with 20 points and 6 rebounds alongside 2 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field and 4 for 8 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, the number 2 overall pick in last year's draft, Jalen Green. He finished with 32 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 13 for 21 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting center, Alperen Sengun, finished with 21 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 40 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field, and he would shoot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their shooting guard off the bench, Josh Christopher, finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds in 22 minutes. He would go on to shoot 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting forward, Kenyon Martin Jr., finished with 17 points and 11 rebounds, all of this in 40 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field and 3 for 6 from 3. Their starting shooting guard out of USC, Kevin Porter Jr., finished with 10 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 4 for 13 from the field, and he would go on to make his only free throw of the day. With this win, the Houston Rockets are 17-49. That is the worst record in the Western Conference and the second worst record in the NBA. They've won 2 of their last 10 games as they trail the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans by 10 games in the Western Conference outside of the play-in picture. With this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are now 28-37. That is the 9th best record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. In the play-in picture, they sit 5.5 games behind the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers, who share an arena with them. They sit a game and a half ahead of the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans, as they sit 24.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. And jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Timberwolves ended up beating the Thunder at home 132-102, as the Timberwolves are co-holders of the league's longest active winning streak. The Timberwolves beat the Thunder 132-102. They won this matchup by 30. They outscored the Thunder by 11 in the first quarter, by 16 in the second, so they outscored the Thunder by 27 in the first half, before outscoring the Thunder by 8 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Aaron Wiggins. He finished with 25 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 9 for 19 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, and he shot 2 for 3 from the foul line on the day. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Minnesota Timberwolves would be led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Malik Beasley. Beasley would finish with 33 points and 5 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 11 for 17 from the field as all of his attempts came from 3. He was 11 for 17 from 3. Those are all the shots he took all day. Their elite starting small forward out of Georgia, Anthony Edwards, would finish with 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in 25 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, and he would shoot 2 for 8 from 3. Their elite starting center out of Kentucky, Karl Anthony Towns, finished with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists alongside 5 turnovers in 29 minutes. Towns shot 4 for 5 from the field and 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 38-29. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 6 games. That is the longest active winning streak in the Western Conference. And they are currently tied with the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champs, for the longest active winning streak in the NBA, as they are just 1 state away. The Timberwolves have won 8 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 2.5 games behind the 5th place Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets, who are tied with the Mavericks. They are also sitting 3.5 games ahead of the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers. The Timberwolves are trailing the Western Conference and NBA leading Phoenix Suns by 15.5 games at the moment. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 20-46. That is the second worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 4 games. They've now lost 7 of their last 10. At the moment, the Thunder are sitting 7 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans, as they have 16 games left in their season. Taking a look now at what's going on in New Orleans, the Pelicans hosted the Orlando Magic, and in this matchup where the Pelicans hosted the worst team in the NBA, the Magic would beat the Pelicans 108-102. The Magic won this matchup by 6 after outscoring the Pelicans by 13 in the first quarter, 15 for the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard CJ McCollum. McCollum would finish with 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 14 for 27 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and he made one of his 3 free throws on the day. New Orleans' starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, finished with 30 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field, and he would go on to shoot a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Orlando Magic would be led in scoring by their starting point guard, Cole Anthony. Anthony finished with 19 points and 5 assists in 25 minutes. He shot 6 for 9 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Orlando Magic are now 17-50. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and that is still the worst record in the NBA. They're the only team that has crossed the 50-loss threshold so far. They've won 4 of their last 10 games. They trail the 10th place Atlanta Hawks by 15 games in the playoff picture, as they have 15 games left in their season so far. With this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are 27-39. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games. The Pelicans have lost 5 of their last 10 games. In the play-in picture, they are sitting a game and a half behind the 9th place Los Angeles Lakers. They are sitting a game and a half ahead of the Portland Trailblazers, who are the first team on the outside looking in. The Pelicans are currently trailing the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 26 games in the conference. Jumping out to Dallas, one state over, the Mavericks hosted the New York Knicks. The Knicks would beat the Mavericks 107-77. The Knicks won this game by 30 after they outscored the Mavericks by 14 in the first quarter. They outscored the Mavericks by 13 in the second quarter, so they outscored the Mavericks by 27 in the first half. And then they would outscore the Mavericks by 12 in the fourth quarter as well. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Slovenia, Luka Doncic. He finished with 31 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 12 for 25 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and 4 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Julius Randle. He finished with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field. He would shoot 3 for 7 from 3 and 7 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Alec Burks, would finish with 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 4 for 13 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting center, Mitchell Robinson, finished with 11 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 24 minutes. He would shoot a perfect 4 for 4 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the New York Knicks are now 28-38. That is currently the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 3 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 3.5 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks outside of the playoff picture out east. With this loss, the Dallas Mavericks are 40-26. They are tied with the Dallas Mavericks for the 5th best record in the Western Conference. The Mavericks have lost 3 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they are sitting a game and a half behind the Utah Jazz. They are sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. Overall, they trail the Western Conference and NBA leading Phoenix Suns by 13 games in the conference. Jumping out to San Antonio within the state, the Spurs hosted the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors ended up beating the Spurs 119 to 104. The Raptors won this game by 15 after they outscored the Spurs by 18 points in the second half, by 10 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of Kentucky, Keldon Johnson. Johnson finished with 27 points and 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 10 for 19 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their all-star starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, finished with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He would go on to shoot 9 for 17 from the field and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. He shot 1 for 3 from 3. Their starting center, the former Toronto Raptor, Jakob Poeltl, finished with 11 points and 12 rebounds in 34 minutes. He would shoot 5 for 8 from the field, and he would make his only free throw attempt of the night. On the winning end of this matchup, the Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard out of Wichita State, Fred VanVleet. He would go on to finish with 26 points and 6 rebounds alongside 2 steals in 34 minutes, as well as 2 assists. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 9 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam, finished with 20 points and 8 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their rookie starting small forward, Scotty Barnes, finished with 20 points and 8 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are 35-30. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They have won 4 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 3 games behind the 6th place Cleveland Cavaliers. They are sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 8th place Brooklyn Nets. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 8 games right now. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are 25-41. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They trail the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans by 2 games outside of the playoff picture. Now taking a look at what is going on in Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz hosted the Portland Trailblazers. The Jazz beat the Trailblazers by 38 in front of their hometown fans. They won 123-85. They outscored the Trailblazers by 18 in the first quarter, by 10 in the second quarter. So they outscored the Trailblazers by 28 in the first half. The Jazz would outscore the Trailblazers by 19 in the third quarter, of course, outscoring them by 47 points in the first 3 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the Trailblazers would be led in scoring by their power forward off the bench, Trendon Watford. Watford finished with 22 points in 29 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field, and he would go on to make all 9 of his free throws on the day. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Utah Jazz would be led in scoring by their starting small forward, Bojan Bogdanovic. He finished with 27 points in 24 minutes. He shot 9 for 14 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Also in the Jazz starting lineup, their starting power forward, Royce O'Neal, would finish with 11 points and 10 rebounds in 24 minutes. He shot 4 for 6 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he made his only free throw. Their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, finished with 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists in 24 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field and 4 for 10 from 3. Their elite starting center out of France, Rudy Gobert, finished with 9 points and 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. He shot a perfect 4 for 4 from the field, and he shot 1 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 41-24, as they have officially clinched not having a losing record this year. They've now won 7 of their last 10 games. They are holding the 4th best record in the East, as they are sitting 2.5 games behind the 3rd place Golden State Warriors. They are sitting a game and a half ahead of the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets, who are tied for the 5th best record in the West. The Utah Jazz are trailing the Phoenix Suns by 11.5 games in the Western Conference at the moment following this win. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are 25-40. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 6 games. Their 6-game losing streak is currently the longest active losing streak in the NBA. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They are sitting a game and a half behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the Western Conference playoff picture at the moment. They are the first team on the outside looking in. Jumping out to Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings hosted the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets would beat the Kings 106-100. They won this game by 6 after outscoring the Kings by 12 points in the first half, by 9 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Kings were led in scoring by their starting point guard De'Aaron Fox. Fox finished with 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 12 for 23 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Nikola Jokic. The reigning NBA MVP finished with 38 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 15 for 24 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Monte Morris, finished with 20 points and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are 40-26. They are tied with the Dallas Mavericks for the 5th best record in the Western Conference. The Nuggets have now won their last 4 games. Their 4-game winning streak is the second longest active winning streak in the Western Conference. The Nuggets have won 9 of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, they are sitting a game and a half behind the 4th place Utah Jazz. They are sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. At the moment, the Denver Nuggets are trailing the conference-leading Phoenix Suns by 13 games. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 24-44. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. The Sacramento Kings are now currently sitting 4 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the Western Conference playoff picture. Last but not least, going to the Crypto.com arena, the Los Angeles Clippers hosted the Washington Wizards. The Clippers beat the Wizards 115-109. They won this game by 6 after outscoring the Wizards by 8 in the 4th quarter to overcome their deficit and win this game. On the losing end of this matchup, the Washington Wizards were led in scoring by their starting center, Kristaps Porzingis, out of Latvia. He finished with 19 points in 26 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and he made his only free throw in his Wizards debut. And then off the bench, their center, Daniel Gafford, would go on to finish with 14 points and 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Los Angeles Clippers were led in scoring by their starting point guard, Reggie Jackson. He finished with 31 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists in 40 minutes. He shot 12 for 21 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Marcus Morris Sr., finished with 27 points and 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 10 for 15 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Los Angeles Clippers are 35-33. That is the 8th best record in the Western Conference. They've now won 7 of their last 10 games. The Clippers are currently sitting 9 games, within the playoff picture, they are sitting 3.5 games behind the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. They are sitting 5.5 games ahead of the 9th place Los Angeles Lakers, who share an arena with them. They are trailing the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 19 games at the moment. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are 29-35. That is the 5th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They are the first team on the outside of the Eastern Conference play-in picture looking in. They are sitting a game and a half behind the 9th place Charlotte Hornets and the 10th place Atlanta Hawks for right now. And that is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at what the NBA is looking like today, because today is Thursday, the primetime games are going to be on TNT. They're going to be the only 2 games tonight. At 7:30, the Philadelphia 76ers, who hold the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, are going to host the Brooklyn Nets in the Wells Fargo Center. The Sixers enter this matchup after having won 8 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 2.5 games out of first place, half a game behind the 2nd place Milwaukee Bucks. They could temporarily jump the Bucks for 2nd place. And then on the road coming in, the Nets enter with the 8th best record in the East. they've only won 4 of their last 10 games, as they are only sitting 3 games ahead of the Wizards, who are outside of the playoff picture. And then looking at the second game on TNT at 10 o'clock in Ball Arena, the Denver Nuggets, who are tied with the Mavericks for the 5th best record in the West, are going to host the Golden State Warriors, who enter this matchup with the 3rd best record in the Western Conference and in the NBA as a whole, as a matter of fact. The Nuggets enter this game having won their last 4 games, the second longest active winning streak in the West. They've won 9 of their last 10. The Warriors have only won 3 of their last 10 games, as they sit 9 games out of first place. So those are the 2 primetime matchups today. That's what basketball is looking like. Taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer. And first, before we leave the continent, the New England Revolutions were able to beat Pumas in the first leg of their round of 16 matchup. They would end up seeing a brace from Adam Buxa in the quarterfinal round, so that would give them a good advantage in that leg. Taking a look at what's going on in Europe, starting off with the first leg of the round of 16 Europa League matchups. First off, in Porto, FC Porto would host Lyon. Olympique Lyonnais would beat Porto in this first leg, as their lone goal will come in the 59th minute from Lucas Paqueta. And then in the second Europa League matchup, Real Betis would end up hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt would beat Betis in this first leg matchup. Eintracht Frankfurt would score the first goal of the game from Filip Kostic. Betis would tie the game up in the 30th minute from Nabil Fekir's 30th minute goal, but then Eintracht Frankfurt would take the goal 2 minutes later off a goal from Daichi Kamada. Right now, Frankfurt is holding a 2-1 lead in this round of 16 first leg at the moment. And then taking a look at what's going on in the Champions League in Europe, going into this matchup, there were 14 teams left competing for the title, and there were now 12, as we are still in the second leg for the round of 16. In the first matchup that took place in Manchester City would end up drawing with Sporting CP 0-0. Since Manchester had beaten Sporting 5-0 in Portugal in the first leg, Manchester City would go on to be the 3rd team that advanced to the quarterfinal round of the Champions League, the 2nd team out of England to do so after Liverpool did it. And then in the second matchup, Real Madrid would end up hosting PSG. Coming into this matchup, PSG held the 1-0 aggregate after Kylian Mbappe scored in the first matchup. Kylian Mbappe would actually open up the scoring in this game as well, as he scored the lone goal in the first half. He scored in the 39th minute to put PSG up 2-0 on aggregate. Real Madrid would see their elite French striker, Karim Benzema, score a hat-trick between the 61st and 78th minutes to bring Real Madrid from down 2-0 in aggregate with about half an hour left to tying the game up with 15 minutes left, and then he would score about 2 minutes later to put Real Madrid up. It was a little bit of faltering from PSG's defense, but regardless, after this season, or regardless after their run, especially in their very first season with Leo Messi, PSG would be the 4th team to see themselves be eliminated. And looking back, remember Sporting CP was the team that finished runners-up in their group with Ajax in Group C. PSG finished 2nd in the group to Manchester City, and Real Madrid will be the 4th team to advance to the Champions League quarterfinal round, as they are the first team to represent Spain, at least at this next level. So right now there are 12 teams left competing in Champions League, as Champions League itself will pick right back up next Tuesday. Taking a look at what's going on today in the world of soccer, today we are going to see more first leg matchups for Europa League for this matchup. The matchup between RB Leipzig and Spartak Moscow is of course canceled because of Russia's invading Ukraine, so Leipzig will be the team that advances to the quarterfinals out of this round. At 12:45, the other matchup that's supposed to be taking place will be Sevilla versus West Ham, as Sevilla enters this matchup right now as one of the top teams in Spain at the moment. Not to mention that West Ham is still one of the top teams in England. Looking at other games at 3 o'clock, Atalanta's facing off against Bayer Leverkusen. Barcelona is going to host Galatasaray. Braga is going to host AS Monaco. Rangers will host Red Star Belgrade as well. And that's virtually everything that I have for you. And once we get through these matchups one day at a time, I will come back tomorrow on Friday, March 11th for another episode of the the Elite. And until then, I want to thank everyone once again for listening. I do hope all is well. I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, the NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed, of course, for this episode. And until tomorrow, I want to thank everyone once again. And I do have an Elite individual profile after this. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another piece tomorrow. Peace out.